been a while since I've heard that intro song. Welcome back on the gravel, my friends. It's been a few weeks. We've missed you.
Exactly what he said. Welcome back on the gravel, folks. You know, thought Oliver would take the intro this time for you, but
I did think that as well. I'm dealing with some technical difficulties over here this week. Absolutely no laptop in front of me. So my phone is hiding on my massive thigh right now.
I can't even see it. I'm such a good cameraman.
Look at him, man.
But on some other news, we are back in the nice Chicago weather. I've been working a lot over this break. We have had 2 interviews that did really well on both YouTube and on Instagram. Shout out our most recent interviewee who just underwent a name change because of all the things happening in the F1 world. Sorry, I'm about to call him by his old name continuously. It's Coffee Corner Motorsport is his new name. Go check him out. He's a great dude out there in the UK. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you want to talk about Funky?
Yeah, let me get the legend Funky T-Bone, the beginner-friendly sim racing man. He did a really fun interview with us. It was our second one that we did. Super nice guy. I loved the personality, too. It matched a bit of what I go for off the air. Just nothing given, just letting it rip, and I love it.
He was really
super
cool.
Good dude.
We're gonna attach Funky T-Bones first. I had to think about that. We're gonna connect that one to this episode at the end, and then we are going to do another one that is just going to be, you know, old name F1 Coffee Corner Motorsport. He is going to be the second one that we release as like a little bonus episode for you guys. They've already been up on YouTube for a while, but for the audio listeners who we have taken a short break from, you guys will finally get to listen to those as well. But plenty to talk about, plenty to banter back and forth between your boys.
Yeah, we thought we'd do something different, not go straight into the news around the paddock. We have a ton, of course, as we've taken so many weeks off, but we thought we'd kind of do our mid-season recaps just to see where Raven and I's heads both are at, what's the same, what's different, where we're clashing a bit. I thought it would be fun, so we decided to do that. The categories we were thinking about doing were our top 5 drivers and honorable mentions, the best race we've seen so far, our biggest improved driver, our biggest letdown in driver or team, our bold prediction, and then just how we feel the rest of the driver market's going to shape up by the end of the year. So for me personally, going into these top 5 drivers, I think Raven and I can both agree that Max Verstappen is the clear number one on the. I was about to say on the
podium.
No, I was about to say on the gravel.
Were you meaning to say on the podium?
No, I was going to say on the gravel.
We're tired here today, guys. But
I was gonna say Max. I mean, he's just been completely unrivaled this year, and he hasn't even had the best car for a majority of the year, and is still leading the world championship by nearly 80 points. I threw Lando Norris at number 2. I don't think he's having an insanely good year, but he's doing enough to put himself second in the driver's standings. And I think for a lot of people, that's enough. But I definitely see the argument of a lot of people thinking he's been quite underwhelming this year, just given the McLaren's been the best car for a long time. I threw Lewis Hamilton at number 3 as I think his resurgence is something that literally every single person in the sport has wanted to see, especially taking his first win in nearly 3 years at his home circuit. Made my heart warm as somebody who isn't even the biggest Lewis Hamilton fan, as just a motorsports fan. Seeing that was really nice. And then I threw George Russell at number 4 as I think he's been very quietly consistent and delivering really good, not even just point scoring finishes, but performances, period. I mean, you had his dead heat with Max Verstappen in Canada. He's taken multiple pole positions, multiple quote unquote race victories. Yeah, he's been stellar this season. I think him and Lewis have been, in my personal opinion, the greatest driver pairing on the grid so far this season, even more than Lando and Oscar or even Carlos and Charles. And then, not a surprise to anybody, in P5, I threw Nico Hülkenberg there just because he has been dragging that tractor of a Haas into some insanely high point-scoring finishes on multiple occasions this year. I mean, his back-to-back P6s at Silverstone in Austria were incredible. And it's the reason that Haas are in the position that they are in the Constructors' championship at the moment. And then I threw Charles Leclerc in there as my little honorable mention. Yes, I am a Charles Leclerc glazer at heart, but seeing that kid.
Sorry, we just have like a sewage issue, which
I don't know.
I've seen it before, but hearing that was like
It was
yeah, but not knowing where that was coming from. This has just been a weird
Yeah, it's
recording
okay.
day.
It's okay.
No one's been in the studio for like 3 days, so things might just not work. But I don't know. We're tugging along. Going over to mine.
Yeah, the Sink was not excited about me glazing Charles Leclerc. I was
Yeah.
just gonna say him taking pole position at Monaco and finally putting that curse to bed
He did not care.
was super nice. And I also Charles was literally first 8 races of the season finished in the top 4 every single race before his little bad luck streak and inconsistency streak. But I think he's been stellar this year.
Stop glazing.
All right, on to Raven. On to Raven.
Onto my top 5 drivers of the first half of the year. We have Max, obviously. I have Carlos at number 2 because he's the only other race winner besides Max on a non-Red Bull team over the last 2 years. Number 3, I got Ollie Behrman because coming into your first F1 race in a spot that is so desired by so many and, sticking it, what do you get?
P7?
Seventh?
Yeah.
P7. That's pretty impressive, and that really should show that he's somewhat ready for these opportunities to come his way. He's coming to Haas next year. We're all super excited about that. Otherwise, I got Oscar as well. I think he's just been absolutely killing it. He's calm, cool, collected. He's the new Kimi, people are saying.
It's a very fair statement.
He's Kimi with more words, which genuinely is agreed upon.
More words, same emotion.
Literally. But number 5, I got Gasly, surprisingly. He has not... All right, it's going again. The Sink does not care about Gasly or does not care about Leclerc. But Pierre Gasly, on the second half of the season, he got 4 straight points appearances from Monaco to Austria, and then DNF'd, but he didn't even start for Great Britain.
Yeah, he had a gearbox issue.
Yeah. So besides that, he's been really consistent. He's tied. He's beating his teammate by 1 point. And yeah, they're Alpine. So any points you can get while you're in that car is going to do well for your stock in the future. My honorable mention, it's got to be Yuki. Man's been working. He's been pretty consistent. Tied with Hülkenberg, 22 points. He's beating his teammate by 10 points, which that's the thing that I think most people are really seeing this year.
I was going to say, I feel like he's convincingly the better RB driver.
I don't know. Yeah, I think this year, yes. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Best position was, 7th?
Yeah.
He's good enough, maybe enough to be the consistent second Red Bull seats. I don't know.
No, we're not going to consider him whatsoever for no reason.
Of course. Never give him a test. And then my best race has got to be my second viewing of a race. Got to be Australia. It was so chaotic. It was so chaotic. Max Verstappen retired. You had Lewis Hamilton retired too.
You had Carlos's win.
Carlos winning without appendix.
The
start of the injury to winning on the F1 podium. So
hey, don't you forget about Alex Albon's appendicitis in Monza in 2022. That's the only reason that Nick DeVries got a race seat in 2023.
First team without appendixes.
Dude, that's going to be so crazy.
Do they have a weight advantage?
I think the appendix is worth like maybe 1,000th of a second. My best race of the year so far, I said Silverstone. I just thought the Red Bulls kind of being nowhere that week and the insane battle between the Mercedes and the McLarens in that wet, dry race was just super good. It was a very unlucky race for Oscar, I thought. If McLaren didn't botch strategy, he probably could have won that race. But again, seeing Lewis win for the first time in 3 years was just so special at his home race. Biggest improvement, I think a lot of people will agree with me when I say Oscar Piastri has, in my opinion, easily been the biggest improvement this year. I know his biggest issue last year and even into this year a little bit was just eating up his tires. He did not have the best tire management. And now that he's kind of refined that and ironed it out, he's been consistently on the podium. He's taken a race victory now. It's been a long time since, we've had, I don't want to say a rookie, but, somebody in their first or second year have a good car very quickly and be able to be as consistent and, scoring as many points, podiums, race wins as he has. So he's been super impressive to me.
I got to go with Lewis for my biggest improvement. Starting off the first 8 races until Monaco, he didn't get past 6th place in a race. George Russell was out qualifying him and beating him in the race. I think it was 6-5 at that time almost. But up until, Spain, when he really got out, you could say even Canada when he got 4th, just barely off podium. That's when you could see the Mercedes really coming back, really producing a car that he can actually do something with, him and George, mind you. But Lewis, from that point on, has gotten 3rd twice and 1st twice. You can't discount him, obviously, because he is such a world-renowned racer, world-class racer. But people counting him out, counting the Mercedes out at any point in the season too, is just never a smart idea.
Yeah, just watch them knock the regulations out of the park in 2026.
They're gonna
just like 2014.
They're gonna kill it next year too.
Yeah, they have a lot of momentum. Which I'm really excited to see.
Biggest letdown of the year for me has got to be Aston Martin Racing. Just overall, I mean, Fernando's doing the best he can. You have Lance Stroll on your team, which, we're all Lance Stroll fanboys over here.
Love the man.
Huge advocates. Lance, please come on our podcast. But yeah, I mean, genuinely, they are 9th and 10th in the Drivers' Championship standings. Aston Martin is in 5th in the world.
Yeah, they're barely in 5th right now.
Barely, just behind because of Haas, because of Nico Hülkenberg.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're scraping by. Yeah, you have enough money to pay Newey. They told him that he's going to have to wait a year, him being Alonso, but is that year going to be when he starts to really lose sign of being him, which
he'll be 45.
At this point, dude, he's going to be the best 45-year-old rookie in the world. We make those jokes, but this man is aging in front of us. He's like the LeBron of F1.
Get out, dude. Get out of here, man. Biggest letdown for me, gotta be Daniel Ricciardo. And why it pains me to say this is a lot of pundits and journalists have really stirred up this narrative that Daniel Ricciardo is back and he's been outperforming Yuki Tsunoda as of recent, which I think it's so goofy. Just in the case that Yuki was dominating him in the first half of the season, but also Daniel Ricciardo is old, and it's not like he's some superstar rookie or second-year driver who is fighting for the Red Bull seat for his first time. I don't know why there is this aura around Daniel Ricciardo that, oh my goodness, for the story tale, we need to get him back into the Red Bull seat. This could be Daniel Ricciardo coming back. No, he's done, bro. I love him so much, but his time has passed. There's so much talent in the Red Bull Junior pool, and it's not like Daniel is going out and consistently beating cars that are better than him. It's not like he's going out week in and week out and beating the Aston Martins or beating the Ferraris or something like that. He's barely beating his teammate now, and he's still behind in the point standings. It's way too late. It's too late. So,
especially
let
with the
go.
Fiasco with him complaining about the engine and wanting a whole new engine.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the year, that was never a good look.
What I thought was a pretty bold prediction for the rest of this season and into next season is just with the stuff that's happened with Sergio Perez as of recently. I think there is an outside chance that Red Bull retains Sergio Perez for the entirety of the 2025 season. And
whack.
It is whack, but he should have lost his seat last year, and he didn't. He should have lost his seat going into the summer break, and he didn't. I don't expect Red Bull to break this precedent of wanting somebody who is not going to challenge Max Verstappen whatsoever. I think they like that dynamic to the point where they are willing to give up the Constructors' Championship for it, which is really concerning. But yeah, I think he stays in that seat for 2025. I'd say Daniel Ricciardo gets the boot and Liam Lawson takes his spot, but I think the Red Bull Racing driver lineup will stay unchanged going into 2025.
My bold prediction for the rest of the year / next year, or 2 years, I guess in this case, Williams is good in the new regulations. That's my boldest prediction. I full-heartedly think that with that Mercedes engine that has the potential to be laps ahead of everyone else right out of the gate, that they could be the second or third best team, especially when now you have Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon for 2 years, two really, really reliable, good drivers. Let's see. Let's race. Like, we have no expectations of what racing is really going to look like in these new regulations when they come in 2026. I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun watch to see these teams, to see Williams kind of have a glorious comeback and actually maybe competing for a, championships cup, maybe even a racing cup. I don't know. Like, the odds of that are pretty.
I'd be happy to see it.
Exactly. Other one, McLaren wins this year, just based out of
absolutely,
just based out of Lando and Oscar being so consistent and Perez being absolutely nowhere.
Perez. Give me a Chinese F4, please. Okay. And then the driver market was the last one, and I was going to fire through this pretty quickly. A lot of these don't really need explanation. But with our last 4 seats, I had Lawson to RB with Daniel Ricciardo getting the boot. I had Gabriel Bortoleto to Sauber / Audi with Bottas and Joe both getting the boot out of F1. I don't want to see Valtteri leave, but
these don't really count because they've already kind of happened.
No, we don't know that. We don't know that. Jack Doohan to Alpine. It has not technically been confirmed yet, so it's still speculation. And Kimi Antonelli to Mercedes.
Beautiful. I got Bottas to Audi. I also got Vettel to Audi with the recent news that he's wanting to come back to racing.
So what's going to happen to Nico Hülkenberg?
He retires and becomes a family man. And then Mazepin returns to F1 as a reserve driver for Alpine, aka High Tech 2.
AKA OnlyFans Alpine.
Yeah,
F1.
I'm not saying that, bro. Like, this actually pisses me off that alcohol and tobacco aren't fucking okay, but porn is.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Like, come on, F1. You're sending cease and desist letters for names of people's content because they're talking about what you do, and you're allowing this to really happen. It's so stupid, dude. It's so stupid.
Yeah, what's even stupider is getting Nikita Mazepin back in an F1 car.
It makes sense, bro. But OnlyFans to Alpine, nah, that doesn't make sense. I don't like it. But we can finally talk about actual
all the news that's happened over the break.
Major news, we should say. Nothing really
I was going to say,
small.
we're not going to go into speculate. This is like just cut dry facts, big stuff that happened over the break for you guys, just so you can get all your information really quickly.
Starting off, some big news that we heard with the break was Oliver Oakes being named the new Alpine team principal. My Oliver, co-host, pointed out that this man is younger than 3 drivers on the grid.
Yeah, it's incredible. He's 36. He was the former high-tech GP Formula 2 team principal.
High-tech 2.
What?
High-tech 2.
High-tech 2. Yeah, so he was the team principal for high-tech in Formula 2. He knows a lot of these drivers extremely well. But just to have a team principal that young, I think seeing that youth in a team, especially Alpine, is going to be really, really interesting. Sticking with that, though, Jack Doohan has essentially been coined as Pierre Gasly's teammate next year at Alpine, leaving many people, including myself, very happy. Just because I like seeing new talent and rookies on the grid. It's the same reason I want more teams on the grid, so we can see more talent. But yeah, don't waste the seat on some bum. Actually, I'm not going to put out a name. That's just mean. But just don't waste a seat on some old head who's obviously past his prime.
Are you talking about Fernando?
No, I was talking about Daniel Ricciardo.
He's not old.
He's getting there. But yeah, no. So Jack Doohan, he was super impressive in both Formula 3 and Formula 2. So to see him finally get a spot will be really nice.
You've seen it on our Instagram and on our YouTube, but Red Bull supposedly wanted to fire Sergio Perez, but Liberty Media kind of stepped in. Was it Liberty Media? What is it? Disney Plus? Who knows? Was it Red Bull just wanting their money after all? But Liberty Media asked Red Bull to reconsider his dismissal as they feared a huge drop in revenue from the Mexican GP and from other races and just merch from that region of the world because he makes a lot of money. Let's not blow
It's
over
like
that
all of
fact.
Mexico and Latin America.
For one dude.
Yeah.
So, like, it makes sense why they want this. You know, there was jokes that every team needs to have a Mexican reserve driver to maintain Mexican viewership, which, you know, funny, but
There you got your Patricia Award in IndyCar. There you go.
I don't know. But it's just stupid. Like, he's not good, but you're keeping him there for the money. This kind of seems more of an issue in the 90s, like when you had teams coming in and just trying to get money quickly, not producing a good car, not feeding the competition at all. But then you have this, and this is okay still too. I don't know. I don't like it.
That's very questionable.
And, you know, the documentary was apparently in the works for a while, but it comes out at such a interesting time. End of July, beginning of August, right when the F1 summer is coming around. Is it a coincidence? Maybe. I don't know. I don't have the ability of talking to insiders and, you know, gathering this kind of information. But moving on from Red Bull, some other interesting news that we got was that Jonathan Wheatley was named as Audi's F1 team principal, leaving his role of sporting director at Red Bull Racing. Now, this was kind of really interesting just because this news blindsided Red Bull completely, apparently. Like, they had no idea that this was happening until the news came out. And right when they saw it, you know, I don't know if it was the Red Bull admin or if it was someone actually on the account that's a higher up that was like, we're refraining from any comments at this time until we know all the details. And, you know, congratulations to him. The Audi F1 project seems like it's
coming together very quickly
from the
and with a
outside,
lot of really good personnel.
From the outside, it looks like they're going to be a great competitor. And it's going to be awesome to have another car on the grid, 2 cars on the grid. Now, not going with this, I guess not 2 cars on the grid, but redesigned cars on the grid, I should say.
A standalone manufacturer.
Yes. But then this kind of raises the issue of Andretti, and if they can point at Audi and be like, hey, if they're rebranding a team like this and, you know, besides Alpine, there's not really a team to buy at the moment. Do you try to get in and go through this long legal process that we've been hearing more and more about? You know, we have it in our doc. We can move there real quick.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
hold on, let me find it. Andretti is, you know, in the news again. The DOJ is finally stepping in with this after Liberty Media rejected Andretti's bid to do an antitrust probe for which us Americans, you know, trusts and monopolies. It's the life, I guess. I don't know, man.
This guy yapping about, man.
I'm gonna yap.
No, it's very interesting. I'm kind of happy that they're doing this though.
Yes.
Because I think they have the right to do it, just given, you know,
they didn't
Liberty's
get
an
any
American company
reason.
or anything. Yeah, exactly. They just denied them.
That's got to be against trust and monopoly laws, man.
So I'm saying it's kind of gangster that they're going about it like this.
Al
But maybe,
Capone-ish.
you know, it could be the thing where it's like, you know, F1's a private company. You know, they can do what as they please. That kind of stuff. Private business, I guess.
But what's the difference between entertainment and then sport? Because is this a sport or is this entertainment?
It's a bit of both.
It's not like how, you know, all American sports are now legally entertainment for betting reasons. It's like we can't bet on F1 still, which is a huge reason why I actually appreciate it, because
Well,
you can, but it's not like how you can bet when American football and baseball and basketball and all the same things like that.
Yeah.
It's skill and money and engineering and, ability to do stuff. Not it's in American sports are, yes, they are too, but not to the same degree. And it's like you wouldn't see this happening with, the Eagles or the Cowboys.
Yeah.
So seeing this is interesting as a fan of the sport. But back to the news. Oliver.
Back to some good news, I think, for just the trajectory that this team is on. McLaren over the break confirmed that Andrea Stella has signed a new multi-year deal with the team. He was quoted saying, "It's been a privilege to be a part of the McLaren Formula One team, and I am honored to keep my role as team principal." And I think keeping that man in the seat that he's in right now only spells good fortune for McLaren. I mean, we've seen the upward trajectory that they've been on for the past few years, which has been incredible. It's honestly the complete opposite of Aston Martin, as we know. So to see that continue, it can only be a good thing. On top of that, Kimi Antonelli, as we've been talking about for weeks, is all but confirmed for Mercedes. The announcement is expected at the Italian GP, and they're supposed to do some special, like Lewis Hamilton hands his seat down to Kimi Antonelli or something. There was some leak about that. I don't know how true that is, but that was interesting. But what I thought was the craziest thing in the whole Kimi Antonelli saga is that Pete Bonington will actually be his race engineer, because a lot of people thought when Lewis was going to leave for Ferrari, Bono was going to go with him. But I think he's contractually obligated to stay at Mercedes for a bit longer. So it's looking like he will end up being Kimi's race engineer, which I think could be a really cool relationship.
It's going to be a weird relationship, though, because part of me feels like Bono's going to want to go to Ferrari to be with Lewis. And,
Yeah. I mean, they have had that connection for like a decade.
Longer, since Mercedes, right?
McLaren, you mean? Yeah.
Oh, it was at McLaren, too?
I swear they met
Here, let me look it
at
up.
McLaren.
Let me look it up. You ramble.
But yeah, I think Bono definitely wants to stay with Lewis as long as he can, but at the same time, it is a job, and they'll still probably be friends, outside of Formula One. So it is, at the end of the day, it's a very professional relationship. So it's not going to be like, oh, this big disappointing sob story. I think he'll also like the new challenge of having to work with a young gun and potentially the next Max Verstappen. So I think it's an opportunity that Bono will probably look forward to.
I was correct. It was 2013.
2013. Okay, so it is Mercedes.
Yeah,
but it is a decade. I was right.
It was a decade. Yes.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yep.
All right.
To Mattia Binotto.
Yes, he is now considering F2 driver Gabriele Bortoleto. Oliver's big fan of this guy for the second seat at Audi, which that is going to be a talking point. Who gets that seat? The Brazilian.
I feel like that's the most highly in the air seat for the rest of the season. Like, that's the one nobody really knows about.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement. But the Brazilian is just 19 years old and is sitting P2 in his rookie F2 season, which
After winning the Formula 3 championship last year. He's really, really good.
I'll take it from the guy that watches those discretions of motorsport. So
Yeah.
I'll leave it there. But the FIA has also approved mule cars. Oh, we forgot one, Oliver.
What did I forget?
The young drivers.
Oh, yes.
They F1 is wanting to do a non-championship young driver only weekend after the season ends for younger drivers to get more time in F1 cars.
And this is
them.
aside from the postseason test at Abu Dhabi.
Yes.
It would be like completely aside from that.
I think it would be between the two, if I had to believe. There's a lot of issues with this, one of them being engine components. Do you need to have a set engine components? Do you give them all equally used engine components that like teams are contractually obligated to only use a certain amount of miles or
How does this
kilometer?
affect the cost cap? Like, all that kind of
There's a
stuff.
lot of room for questions and growth that's probably going to be ironed out over the next few years if this does, come to fruition. But it would feature a full practice quali sprint feature race weekend. It would be all youth. So like I would imagine it would be.
I think it would be the same thing as the rule for young driver free practice sessions where you have to have competed in 2 or less Formula One races, which is why Haas has like still been able to use Pietro Fittipaldi, even though he's raced in 2 F1 races for Romain Grosjean when he had his like massive crash. It was only 2 races, so they can still use him as a young driver, even though the dude's like 28 or 29 at this point or something like that. He's not young.
So people were saying that Fernando will be there the first
No,
year.
of course he will. He'll probably win the one
The
race
weekend?
championship.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. We're calling it now. But going back to Matteo Binotto. Or no. We already got
Potato
whoa.
Binotto.
Potato Bonito.
No, what we were talking
mule
about.
cars.
Yes, the FIA has approved the use of mule cars to be used over the 2025 season in off-track testing to prepare for the 2026 regulations. For those that don't know, mule cars, they are chassis that have been adapted to complete test running. It's essentially being modified to mimic the upcoming regulations, and it can therefore differ pretty largely from the original car spec that you're used to, but it's really just used to gain firsthand data on how the new gen reacts. So expect to be seeing probably some stuff about that just on your favorite teams' pages and that kind of stuff, where they're doing tests at like Fiorano for Ferrari, like that kind of stuff.
Silverstone for Mercedes and Williams and Aston Martin now and
McLaren,
and that's it.
pretty much every team.
Is Haas?
Haas is okay. So Haas, their
Is that
actual
Coda?
base is in Kannapolis in North Carolina, but they have a base in the UK, so they do their testing out there.
Makes sense. Next up, we have some news according to Formula Uno. Red Bull has no margin to allocate extra budget to fix the Red Bull 20 car.
Thanks to Sergio Perez.
Yeah, that sums it up pretty much in what? 5 words?
5 words, baby.
So,
another pretty quick one for you. Diego Tondi has also assumed the position of chief of aerodynamics at Ferrari. Anytime they do a little shuffle, I get excited.
I don't know who he is or what he's done, so I'm going to believe it's a good move on them.
Hey, Fred Vasseur was a better move than Mattia Binotto, so
That's facts.
that's all that matters. If Arso, oh my goodness,
Brothers,
guys, I'm
we
so
are
sorry.
tired.
I am so sorry. If RB don't make a move on Liam Lawson, like we've been talking about, he's going to end up being a free agent in September, and at liberty to leave the Red Bull program to pursue an F1 seat in another team. I don't really think this is going to happen, though, by the way, just because I don't think Liam really has any ins at any other teams. Like, I think RB is his best chance in getting an F1 seat, in the sense that unless for some crazy reason, if this happens, stamp it and put my name on it, this guy goes to Audi for some reason.
Let's go.
If RB doesn't like make a move on him, and Audi's like, screw it, we'll throw Liam Lawson and Nico Hulkenberg together. That could be insane.
Dream team right there, baby.
No, that would be crazy.
You're doing this one because I don't know how to say his name properly.
Okay,
It's stressing
we're gonna
me
have
out.
a little lesson here, Raven. Stefano.
That's not the one that's stressing me out.
What are you yapping about?
Domenicali?
Oh, Stefano Domenicali.
Okay, that's what it was stressing me out.
Well, I know you were gonna
Stefano.
you were gonna say it along with me. So Stefano. Now you go
Stefano
Domenicali.
Domenicali.
Perfect. Stefano Domenicali. He's hinted at a third of the calendar could become sprint races in the future. This guy just loves to yap, by the way. Like, of course, now we're talking about this non-championship race. Now we're talking about more sprint races. This guy just yaps. This guy talks money, 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 money. Mr. Krabs walking around with his little legs. But anyway, he was quoted saying that I think we're not in a position to say that we're going to be like MotoGP, for example, with a full race calendar of sprints, but there's definitely margin to grow. Maybe for 1/3 of the calendar, that could definitely be a possibility.
I mean, I understand that they're trying to make money and they're trying to give people their money's worth of what a weekend of F1, especially with how much freaking tickets cost.
Yeah, I respect it.
So, yes, I understand them wanting to have more sprints on weekends. Does it make sense with, with things we were saying earlier, with the non-F1 driver little championship weekend? Is this going to be another engine? Is this going to include in the cost cap? Like, there's so many logistical issues that fall into this that makes this not likely to happen. And if it does happen, Is it going to be rushed? Is it going to be chaotic? Is it going to maybe destroy some teams' chances because, they can only have 7 engines? Oh, no. 3 of them blew up in sprint races. Now you have to do, 24 races on 4 engines? Good luck.
It's going to be grid penalty after grid penalty after grid penalty.
Which is, you're the FIA. I guess you want that instead of competitive racing. I genuinely don't know. So I leave it there. But
another big one that we've kind of hinted at in other
Aston Martin.
Yeah, other little talking points we've had. Aston Martin have released a statement over the break on the possibility of Adrian Newey making the switch to the British outfit. They obviously have not come out and said anything major. They were actually quoted saying that the Aramco F1 team is very appealing and a very appealing project with the Stroll's vision, new state-of-the-art facility, and partnerships with Aramco and Honda. However, they said many high-profile individuals across all areas of the team are linked to the project, but we don't have anything to announce. So I think they're trying to keep this under closed doors a little bit. They've obviously seen how much has come out about this Adrian Newey $400 million over X amount of years deal. Maybe it's somebody leaking it, something like that.
It came from inside the paddock. We know that much.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
Do we know if it's true or if it's a rumor? That we can never really tell. But it is interesting the fact that they're saying with Stroll's vision, so it's what Lawrence wants.
Yeah, Lawrence. It's what Lawrence wants.
And yes, obviously they have nothing to say right now. They can't announce that they have signed him. They cannot sign him yet. So again, it's one of these things where we're in a sitting duck position where we're just waiting for something to happen when we already know that it's most likely going to happen. Can he still go to, say, Ferrari? I think that door is closed because you already have a new technical director. Can he still go to Williams? Maybe. It's another team it doesn't make sense he goes to McLaren. It doesn't make sense that he goes to Mercedes.
I think Aston Martin is the most likely one.
It just genuinely makes sense when you chalk down to everything that we've heard about this situation and where he is looking, that it's going to be out of those 4 teams. Half those teams don't make sense. One of them has a lot more money. Yes, they have a better facility, better car. The other one is where you started your career. Kind of comes down to what kind of person he wants to be remembered as at the end. Does he want to go back and do one last hoorah with your last team that started it all? Or do you take the money and set your kids up and, the whole 9 yards?
I think they're both respectable.
They both are. And that's why it's like you can't really hate him for either one that he picks, but it's going to be interesting to see how he does this.
Yeah. Going over to WEC just for a second, there's nothing crazy that's happened in WEC. We do have the COTA race, the 6 hours of COTA, very soon. But in news from WEC, Cadillac and Hertz Team Jota have paired up for the 2025 WEC season to field a dual hypercar squad, taking over the factory program from Chip Ganassi, which has entered a single car in the series since 2023. So yeah, Hertz Team Jota have only been running a single hypercar. So to see them have the ability to run a second one, also just with how successful they've actually been this year, with the one win that they took, that was if I remember correctly, it was the first non-manufacturer win in the hypercar category in like a very long time. But it's definitely something to look forward to. Also, just more cars on the WEC grid is something I will never complain about.
Yeah. And our very last piece of news for this week of On the Gravel is Mick Schumacher is a contender for the F1 comeback with Audi, as they are highly interested in the German AMUS. I don't know what that stands for, and
I can't remember it's a news website.
States that Benito's arrival could see Michael Schumacher's potential of a drive.
Michael Schumacher's coming back?
Mick Schumacher.
I know that's messed up. I always write down MSC.
So many. Yeah, I was gonna say, dude, it's not fair at all. Especially when I'm running on 5 hours of sleep and I've been up for what, 16 hours now?
A lot of time.
14 hours? I don't know. I'm tired. But he's apparently in discussions more frequently to get that spot next year. And I think he kind of deserves it. He's been kind of screwed over by
Haas.
Toto Wolff.
Yeah. I mean, I'm also okay with him staying in WEC. Like, I won't complain about MSC staying in WEC.
True. But
Maybe just reserve driver. See how Jack Doohan does. If Jack Doohan craps the bed, there you go. Give the spot to Mick Schumacher.
valid. That is going to be it for us. There's a little bit of rally news, a little bit of WEC news, a little bit of MotoGP news, but not enough to really talk about for this break period that we are still on. Next week, we are back. I was supposed to be out of town. I don't think that's going to happen anymore, so we will have another in-studio episode for you guys. We'll have 3 shorts this week. Nothing new from there. Some Alithio stuff, though. We have a new show on the network, Let's Cool One, with Jack Macklin. Really cool dude. It's going to be a Chicago musician, music, guitar, jazz podcast. It's really interesting. I know Brendan, the other producer on our network, is very, very excited. We also have a hockey show coming out. It's going to be Chicago Hockey Radio. We had to change the name after some issues with that. But the guy we got for him, I only know him by his Instagram handle, but he's really, really cool. He's really, really smart, knows hockey like the back of his hand, knows the Hawks, the inside and the outs. But he's also an F1 fan, so we will definitely get him in here. Maybe episode every once in a while if he's around, if he wants to call in or something. We will definitely get his opinions on our show as well, because we are welcome to anyone coming and voicing their opinions. But that is going to wrap it up from the studio version of today's episode on the gravel. Oliver, you want to whip over and do the YouTube?
It's been so long. I missed this.
I know. You're ready.
Subscribe. This side of my head over here. That's on the left for you bad boys and girlies out there. Last week's video over here on the right side of my head. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for popping back out on the gravel with us after the break. Take care of yourselves, y'all. Peace out.
And for our audio listeners, here's our first interview.
Bye.